Welcome back to our final clip, part 3 of our webinar, the Center for Healthy Aging, who we are and what we do. To close out this webinar, I want to share another clip from a past podcast episode, this time with our current director, Dr. Nicole Ehrhart. In this clip, you'll hear about Dr. Ehrhart's vision for the Center for Healthy Aging, and also about our passion for comparative aging research, specifically why dogs are the best models for human aging. I will thank you in advance for watching this webinar. Remember, if you have questions or want to get in touch, you can email us at healthyaging@colostate.edu. Now over to Dr. Ehrhart.
If you think about the whole, all the age-related diseases, cancer being one, but things like heart disease, neurologic degeneration, like, Alzheimer's, type 2 diabetes, macular degeneration, stroke, cardiac disease. What's interesting to think about is that the one common element among all of them is aging. So we typically don't think about age itself as a disease or aging as a disease. But if we could target aging, if we could actually slow aging, that's the common core, right? We could slow all the related diseases. And that would be a huge impact worldwide. If you think about healthcare costs just to deal with the aging world and how the number of people with neurodegeneration like Alzheimer's or dementia is increasing because we're living longer, but we're not living healthier. It seems to me like this is our trigger. This is the real tipping point. If we could change how we age, slow aging on a cellular level, we have the opportunity to influence all diseases, including cancer. Cancer happens to be the thing that I had a lot of interest in, but it's really taking the same approach, but widening your view and actually thinking of it on a bigger scale. I don't think that we've really thought aging as a society is a disease. We don't love aging, like nobody wants to get old and frail, but age itself is actually a wonderful advantage. The wisdom and experience that and your ability to contribute to society, the older you get, increases. So what if we could slow down all the stuff that kind of makes us less likely to be, healthy in our old age, and we could impact, worldwide, numbers of cases of cancer, numbers of cases of stroke. I mean, all this is possible. And the key element is cellular aging. And we really think this sounds a little like it's from outer space or, kind of futuristic, but I'm telling you, that's what's happening. It's happening. So, as I mentioned, the frustrating thing is that we have this great amount of discovery, but the discovery piece is far outpacing our ability to translate into human populations and have meaningful healthcare options or therapeutic options for people that, and understanding when those things would be best deployed across the lifespan of a person. Mm-hmm. So there's our missing link. We have a real big problem, and we call that the translational gap. We call it our inability to go from the laboratory and the laboratory mouse to people. But I think we have some interesting solutions there, yeah, especially here at CSU. So
Right. And that's perfectly leading to my next topic. So speaking of thinking about aging from a wider scope, a broader perspective, you're the director of the Columbine Health System Center for Healthy Aging at Colorado State. And we're a relatively new center. And that's what we're doing. We want to look at aging from this broad scope. So let's talk a little about the center and especially how we're trying to close this translational gap that you've referenced.
Right. Well, when we talk about taking a broad view of things, what comes to mind is the word convergence. And over and over again, I think as the scientific community has recognized that what we've been very good at is drilling down deeply within a discipline, molecular biology or, cellular, whatever, even social sciences, whatever. We drill very deeply down into our disciplines, into mechanistic, discovery. And all that is beautiful, eloquent research. But sometimes what we fail to do is look across disciplines And I think as we think about the world's big challenges, and aging is certainly one of the biggest challenges we're facing as a global community, because we're living longer but not living as healthy. So it doesn't increase our health span. Our lifespan has increased, but our health span has not, which means that now we're this burden of caring for this, large number and growing number of older and older people is going to bankrupt even the wealthiest of countries. I mean, it's not sustainable. So to think about that as a global challenge, the best way to approach these huge challenges is to think about them as an interdisciplinary problem. So we need to think of the perspective, rather than looking deeply into our own disciplines, we need to think about it across disciplines. We need the minds and the input and the perspective of people from multiple disciplines that are all focused on the challenge, in this case, aging. And what the Center for Healthy Aging is an interdisciplinary catalyst. So we're essentially gathering people from every discipline across CSU and nationally and internationally to focus on aging from their own perspective and facilitating that, that groupthink, if you will, because we believe that that's the answer to some of the biggest problems. What's also extraordinarily unique about CSU, and sort of ties into the veterinary side of it, is that we have this outstanding vet school here. And the vet school has a really well-developed clinical trials program where animals, our companion animals like dogs and cats and horses, etc., we can actually enroll them in different clinical trials. Now, dogs are really, really interesting to think about when it comes to aging research. Number one, if you're a dog lover, and I think many of us are, we all want our dogs to live healthy into their old age. And everyone who's owned a dog or, lost a dog has experienced that heartbreak of, they live a lot shorter period of time than we do, and they age much quicker. So let's double click on age much quicker. So dogs live in our environments, unlike laboratory mice, for example, or monkeys even that are in a laboratory. They live in our environment, and they're exposed to all the same things that we're exposed to. They eat our food, they drink our water, they're exposed to our secondhand smoke, they're exposed to our sedentary versus active lifestyles. And unlike laboratory mice, they also have all the variety, shape, size, color that we do as a human population. So all of a sudden you start to think, okay, well, dogs age naturally, they live in our environments, and all those age-related diseases we talked about, arthritis, heart disease, stroke, even Alzheimer's disease, happen naturally in dogs. We don't give them the cancer, for example. We don't give them cancer or Alzheimer's or, arthritis. This is just part of their active daily lives, similar to people. So what's also interesting about dogs is they have a very different lifespan based on body size. So small dogs live a lot longer than giant breed dogs. Everybody knows that Great Danes and Irish Wolfhounds have a lifespan of about 8 years, whereas a toy poodle can live 16 years on average.
Right.
So this divergence of lifespan is really interesting. And if you take a 7-year-old Great Dane and a 7-year-old toy poodle, and you look at the cells from each of those, so been on the planet exactly the same amount of time, the Great Dane has older cells. So what is this reminding us of? It's reminding us of that 80-year-old population where there's healthy agers, in this case, kind of the analogy being the toy poodle, and less healthy agers, which is the Great Dane. So their lifespan is shorter because they accumulate those hallmarks of aging on a rapid basis. What's also interesting about dogs is, whereas we don't know when the lifespan of people they began to diverge, so that 80-year-old that we see that's really healthy versus the 80-year-old that's not, somewhere along their lifespan, from birth to age 80, they began to diverge. We don't know when that happened. And if we could intercede at that time of divergence, we could change, again, that trajectory to be more toward the healthy aging trajectory. What's fascinating about companion dogs is we know when that divergence happens. It happens when they become adults at about 1 year of age. So before that, if you look at their cells, they're aging at exactly the same rate. Once they become 1 year of age, the Great Dane suddenly accelerates their aging pathway. So they're going down and accumulates all those hallmarks of aging much more quickly. So now think about it. We've got this very powerful opportunity to help both dogs, but also translate what we know in mice to people, because dogs represent a more, mimic human aging much more closely, and they're exposed to all the stuff that's kind of the confounders, lifestyle changes, obesity, etc. but we also know when they begin to diverge. And we can then take some of these therapeutics that work in mice and use them at known points in that divergence. At 1 year of age when they begin to diverge, at 3 years of age when they're already diverged, at old age when we see the old Great Dane versus the poodle that's still, maybe they're the same age chronologically, but the old Great Dane is nearing the end of his life, where the poodle is still in kind of the prime of life. Can we change that trajectory? There's no way to do that in humans. There's just no way, because we don't know when that happens in humans. We know when it happens in dogs, and dogs are so much more like humans. So because we have this world-class vet school here and a Center for Healthy Aging that's led by a veterinarian who's really interested in this, all of a sudden we have this really interesting opportunity to make an impact. And I don't think there's many other places, in fact, I know of no other place that's positioned the way that CSU is positioned right now, and that the center is, to create the pipeline of discovery that will cross that translational bridge. And that is all due to the fact that we're really interested in dogs. Again, not so much, for the dog's sake. We want them to age healthy, but also using that as the two-way street to bring the stuff we know works in mice to make it work in people.